Well, welcome back this week, and this week is on missions, which is one of our core five. And so, as we look at missions today, I don't even know where to begin because there's so much to talk about. We could be on here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but we all, again, want to make these short and kind of just discussion starters. Again, we're not diving in very deep, we're just kind of scratching the surface. And these videos are just kind of get discussion started and kind of getting a conversation in lots of different ways, not just in your groups, but hopefully outside the groups of, hey, here's what our church is doing for missions, or here's what we do, and different aspects of what we're trying to accomplish here in our community of Wamego, Crosspoint Community Church. And you know, one of the verses that we're probably going to follow today is Acts 1:8, and in Acts 1:8, it talks about taking the gospel, taking the good news, and going to your local, into your regional, and international, and all those different things. So we want to start out just talking about those things. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is the local missions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Michael and let him kind of talk about some things that we do here locally that's really easy for you to get plugged into.
Yeah, well, first off, just any of the missions that I've gone on, I've never been on a long-term mission trip other than my life, hopefully, but away from what I would call home. And my time in Japan, one of the things they talked to us about when we were ready to go and impact the culture of Japan, they said, with many of these short-term missions, what really happens is that the culture impacts you. And where you go, God uses to change your heart and see more of who He is. And that can start in overseas, like you said, but I think it also happens right here inside of your hometown. And if we were in a big city, it would be we'd probably have to draw a map of what is our local influence. But regional, or in this area, it's defined by the town of Wamego, and maybe even our McFarland ministry. What we found is that there is an invisible group here in Wamego that many people don't realize that are poor. There is a large number of people who are in great need. There are men and women who are unable to manage the properties that they have, and there are people who are wanting to advance the gospel but need help. And that kind of encompasses where we have our attempts to try and build relationships with people in our neighborhoods and see those needs that are obvious, and then gather people to go and meet that. One example is a widow here in town that our men's group has tried to help. And then now in McFarland, we have a gentleman who's a member there who's an invalid. He's a Vietnam War veteran, and we're going to be trying to go and help him repair his property and get their house ready for winterization. And that is a huge ministry to those folks. But if we were just focusing on the people in our own church all the time, we'd be ministering to our people, but when we go out, people see us doing something that isn't just about Crosspoint. And that, I think, is the essence of the gospel, that it's not just about circling and inoculating ourselves from the community, but instead taking the risk of going out. And that's one of my challenges is I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to do something wrong. And there's a lot of trust that if I just consider them greater than myself, we're going to make an impact, and that Jesus looks good. That's the big deal for me is, am I willing to actually put Jesus' name out there when I do it, and not just be a community servant, but be a Jesus servant. And it's hard to say Jesus' name, even with peers in the church and say, wow, Jesus looks good because you're doing this. And so I hope we continue to challenge people to do that locally.
Good. That's good. And then when we look at the regional, we do a few things regionally, which would be more of still within the United States, but maybe outside the state of Kansas, or a longer distance, maybe 30 or 40 miles away, in that kind of way. And so Dana's going to speak to that just a little bit.
Yeah, one of the trips we take with the youth is to Arlington, and we go down there with 30 to 60 kids, and it's just really ties to other parts of the United States that it's not like Wamego, Kansas, and to see the growth in the kids as they just open up to other kids. I mean, they're there for a mission, and that's to spread the word of Jesus Christ. And they're a little reluctant when they first go in. Some of them are, but when they come out on that Thursday or Friday, they're changed people. They're changed, and they really realize what mission work is all about, and they see it, and not only see it, but they do it. And what I want to encourage is to people of my age or younger, which most of them are, but the thing is that when you go on those trips, you just see God's hands working, not only through the mission that we're going to and the mission that's set out before us, but the kids and the young people in our church, how they grow through missions, and in respect, you grow along with them. So missions are really important, and I've really, I mean, we go on different ones, but the Arlington trip, I think if you ask any of the young people, that's where they experience the real growth in them, and they come back and check a different person almost every time. So, and as they come back, almost every time they say, well, we need to do this in Wamego, or we need to do this around. So the regional comes right back to the local. So it's really, missions are so important. So, yes.
And they're vital. And so as you look at the local and the regional and some different things that maybe you be able to get plugged into, those are sometimes the easiest things to get plugged into. But then you look at international, which we're supposed to go not just to our local and our regional, but to the ends of the earth. And our international missions that we're involved with, we're pretty excited about. We have lots of different information on the information table about every Sunday. But Food for the Hungry is one of those organizations. We've been on the ground with Food for the Hungry in Haiti. We've seen their operations. We know it's a great organization. We do child sponsorship through that. Is kind of what we do. So you can sponsor a child. It's $35 a month. And they then come in and do different things in the community. And it's an organization that just doesn't promote poverty. Sometimes organizations, they'll just give money, and it really isn't a avenue of getting people from poverty into a sustainable lifestyle. What they do is they come in and they actually work inside the community, work with those kids, and they help them to understand what it means to step out of poverty and into a sustainable lifestyle, no matter what culture they may be in. So it's a great organization. And the other organization we work with is Global Orphan Project, and I love that it's based in Kansas City. And you can go right to their headquarters and meet with them, talk with them. It's a great organization, and they do a lot of work around the world. They have a twofold ministry where they take care of orphans, but at the same time, there's orphan prevention, which I had never heard that phrase until a few years ago when we started getting involved with this organization. They do things to where they help orphans in what they call villages. And a village is basically a school and a church, and then the pastor is kind of the mayor of that village. And there's a few businesses that kind of work out of that they kind of work through to kind of help train some of the orphans to have jobs when they age out at age 18. This organization also has a VOTEC school. It does the same thing. They take all the orphans through, and by 18, they all have been trained to have a trade to go out and have a sustainable lifestyle in whatever culture they live in. Then on top of that, for the orphan prevention part of it, they had parents coming, a lot of them single parents coming and almost dropping off their kids, wanting their kids to be a part of the village because they saw those kids having such a great opportunity in the culture they lived in. These kids were being job trained, they were being loved on, they were being fed, a lot of their needs taken care of in lots of different ways, and so parents were just dropping kids off. They weren't really orphans, but they were becoming orphans because the parents wanted their kids to have a better life. And I've never been in that situation, and I know if I would see that, I would probably have those same thoughts. Man, if I can just drop my kid off and know, and I love them enough to know that they can have a better life, I may be tempted to do that also. So it's very hard. So if you ever think that you can judge that, I would not judge that in any way until you're in that situation. But the Global Orphan Project saw that, and they want to build families, and their goal was then to keep the family unit together. So they would go and offer a job, a living wage job in those cultures, to those parents, and then not only give them the job, but then give them free daycare for their children. And so they were giving them jobs. And they have factories where they do different T-shirts, and we've walked in those factories. They are very nice places to work, very nice places to be. You can go online to GoX, and you can buy different things off of their shirts, and they have jewelry, and they have handbags, they have all these different things. Christmas is right around the corner.
I think we're going to have a go party here sometime
Yeah,
soon.
we'll try to have a GoX party. It's a great way for you to buy Christmas presents and support orphan and orphan care. And so it's a great organization that I can talk about again. This could be an hour session, but we're going to have to wrap it up here. Missions are so important. I don't know how I can ever get this across more and more, but you've heard me say from the pulpit, at least one time in your life, you got to go on a mission trip. It'll change your perception. It'll change probably your circumstances when you come home. You've got to go on at least one mission trip in your lifetime. And so we have a Haiti trip that we think is coming up in February. We had some changes in that because of the person that was leading it moved to Florida, and so they have had changes in their schedule. And so we're going to be moving the Haiti trip. If you'd like to go, start planning now. But we'd also like to sit down in groups, start talking about missions. The verses we'd love to go through, Acts 1:8. That's a go-to verse a lot of times in missions, but it's vital. Go read it, go talk through it, see the local, the regional, and the international emphasis in those things. And then also go to Matthew 28:19-20. Most of you know those verses too. It's a great commission. We are commissioned to go and make disciples. It's not making converts. We don't save people, God does. But we're to step in them and disciple them in the gospel of Jesus Christ. So go with your groups, discuss, and we hope to see you next week.